The way forward, the way to combat this tragedy lies there, in the weeds of gun control, and not in further prosecution of Zimmerman at the federal or civil level. A civil case may heal the family, and they deserve that. But in too many ways, we still live in the same America that Emmett Till lived in. An America where blacks are often judged to be a threat to order, and citizens are able to destroy their bodies and be protected by the justice system, and the black community is left in pain.
All right, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show, folks. That's the reprehensible Toure fanning the flames of racial tension and hatred, in my opinion. And before the break, we played you the soundbite of Joe Scarborough back in March of 2012, calling George Zimmerman a murderer. And we played you the soundbites over the course of the past 2 days. The media gone into overdrive in their attempt to make this a racial issue and pin it on George Zimmerman and say that blacks are basically, being hunted down by white people in this country. Joining us now is my friend and the author of a great new book, Collusion: How the Media Stole the 2012 Election and How to Stop Them from Doing It in 2016. It's co-authored by Tim Graham. We welcome in Brent Bozell. Brent, I'm holding the book up for all of the Newsmax audience to see.
Wonderful, wonderful. Don't take it down.
No, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Well, I'm great. Before we get to the book, I want to talk about the piece you wrote that appeared on Newsbusters the other day, actually yesterday, I guess, how the race-baiting media will be responsible for any post-Zimmerman verdict violence. And we've seen some, even though there have been isolated incidents where people have been beaten up, and in one case in Baltimore, a jogger here and there, and they've said it's for Trayvon, allegedly. And there's been some violence in L.A. and Oakland. Still in all, I think it's less than the scale we expected. But having said that, I think you're 100% right. I think some of these people on TV who are saying what they're saying are hoping for violence.
No question. If it's less than what we expected, it is also less than what the left wanted. There are two players in this travesty, three actually, that need to be so roundly disgraced by what they have done or continue to do. The first is the President of the United States, who inserted himself into this tragedy, took sides, and took the wrong side on the side of the law by suggesting that George Zimmerman was a murderer who had taken the life of Trayvon Martin. And by the way, let me preface this by saying I'm not a George Zimmerman sycophant. In fact, I went into the trial believing he was innocent. I came out of it believing less so. So I'm not a fan. That said, what has been done to him is beyond the pale. The second group that needs to be condemned in the highest with the highest level of intensity are the race baiters, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, that whole crowd. They are out there to cause racial divisions in this country. They don't care about justice. They care about racial division. And they're doing a very good job. And the third group is the National Press Corps that is giving oxygen.
You're fading away, Brent. You're fading away a little. If you could talk.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Streakers of the 1970s?
Sure.
Okay.
I remember the song that they call him the Streaker. Yeah.
Very good. I've forgotten that one.
Oh, yeah.
Well, with the Streakers in the 1970s, you had people who wanted instant national attention by taking their clothes off and running across football fields during a live game. And the national media, the ABC and Monday Night Football, would put their cameras on the person pixelated and talk about it. One day, ABC Monday Night Football decided we've had it, enough is enough, and they announced we're not going to give any coverage to it anymore. And guess what? The entire national streaking fad ended abruptly then and there. You wonder what would happen with these radical troublemakers, and these vandals. Isn't it amazing that in furtherance of justice for Trayvon Martin, they destroy shops as if that would accomplish justice for Trayvon Martin? But what would happen to this whole subculture of rage, of street rage, if there was no oxygen, if the media didn't give them coverage? I would submit to you that it would evaporate.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree with you more. Unfortunately, I think that we're going to be around this case for a long time. Holder's talking right now. Says
and how dare they? I mean, look what's happened here. So the reason the prosecution was so embarrassed from beginning to end was because there was no case. No matter what you think about this case, there was no legal way you could possibly convict George Zimmerman beyond a reasonable doubt. It couldn't happen. And now that it hasn't happened because it couldn't happen, now they're going to the federal government to do it all over again.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, he says he just said now in front of the NAACP he's troubled by this case. There's no rush here. They're going to take their time. They're going to get all the information as if they haven't had all the information. And how about Angela Corey? Talk about responsibility if there was blood. Angela Corey went on national TV last night and said that the head prosecutor who brought the charges after she lost said, when asked to go do a word association and she was asked George Zimmerman, she said, after pausing for 15 seconds, murderer.
Yeah.
Murderer.
So justice, the Attorney General of the United States is troubled by justice.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what you saw was justice. Again, I repeat, how can you be troubled by a judicial system that could not convict beyond a reasonable doubt? Those were the facts in the case. How could you be troubled by the outcome when the jury did exactly what they needed to do?
And you know what, Brent? And you know what? Even the Jeffrey Toobins of the world who have now come out and said, you know, whatever he said, the bag of Skittles, blah, blah, blah. Even those on the left, with the exception on CNN of the woman named Sunny, I forget her last name, Hostin or something, almost unanimously, they all said as the case was being presented, wow, the prosecution really screwed up here. Wow, the defense really made those prosecution witnesses turn their way. So this is not even an unexpected verdict.
Yeah. They had nothing. The prosecution had nothing going into this thing, and it only got worse for them. There was never a moment when the Zimmerman argument was in doubt. All he had to do was say Trayvon Martin was on top of him, and there were witnesses that backed it up. And so Trayvon Martin's case evaporates at that point. It never should have been there. It should never have gone to trial. This is one of those cases where you say to the parents of Trayvon Martin, I know you don't agree. It's a tragedy. Your boy lost his life. We simply cannot prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. It cannot be done. We can't bring it to trial. So at the end of the day, another party that suffered were the parents of Trayvon Martin, who were brought through this thing and dragged through this trial, and at the end of it with this result. I mean, I'm disgusted by just about everyone
I know.
in this charade.
Well, we're talking to Brent Bozell, and we now segue right into his book, Collusion, How the Media Stole the 2012 Election and How to Stop Them from Doing It in 2016, co-written with his colleague Tim Graham at the Media Research Center. And, you know, we talk what we're talking about now, basically, is media collusion. But let's refer to what happened in 2012. And you talk about the media, and I'll just start by saying this, which I say so often, Brent. And after 2008 and 2012, if the Republican nominee in 2016 doesn't understand, doesn't have savvy advisors who listen to shows like this and go to sites like Newsbusters, and doesn't understand, doesn't read your book, and doesn't understand that more so than the opponent they have, they're up against the media. There's no way they will win. And if they don't fight back, they shouldn't even try.
Yep. And with that, our interview just concluded.
No. But
there's nothing I can add. There's nothing I can add to what you just said. That's the point. That's the whole point. In talking about the 2016 scenario, at the end of it, what Republicans can do about it is look. The first thing you have to recognize is the seriousness here, the importance of this issue. Mitt Romney was one who didn't understand it. I was on a cruise with him with National Review after the 2008 elections, and the subject of media bias came up, and he was completely dismissive dismissive of it. And so, well, if you don't like it, just buy it. I mean, that was his attitude.
Right.
That was his answer.
Right.
Well, guess what? Now he understands. Too late. Now he understands what media bias is all about. Bush 41, a man I revere personally, he never understood it, and he was at the flailing around in the last minutes of the '92 campaign, talking about don't believe the liberal media. Well, too late, pal. We were trying to tell you about this 4 years before. So if they don't make it a top shelf concern, then they're never going to learn their message, their lesson, and they're never going to get beyond the fact that everything that goes through the system comes out chop suey on the other end. The second thing is to realize that they have to not just be smart about this, they have to stand up to these people so that when an NBC misrepresents what you're saying, NBC took and cooked footage of Mitt Romney at a Wawa story to make him look like an idiot.
Yep.
Where was the response from Mitt Romney? Why didn't Mitt Romney ever take them on for this? Why didn't he call them out for this? Why didn't he make them an issue out of this? It would have been hugely positive for him to have done so. He didn't choose to do it. And the third thing, and perhaps the most important thing, is realize you don't need them at all. There is, once upon a time, the liberal media had, and I don't think I'm going to call them news media ever again, the liberal media had a monopoly on this subject. It doesn't exist anymore. You can go around them. You can get your story immediately and directly to the American people, free of this distortion machine. All you have to do is use the new media. You go to the internet, you go to talk radio, you go to Fox, and you can communicate directly with the public, and you no longer need to care what Brian Williams does, or what Barbara Walters does, or what CNN does.
And Brent, you have a chapter in here certainly about the debates, and you go back to Candy Crowley and all that. But there was a great piece on Newsbusters not too long ago about how I think it was Jim Lehrer or someone acknowledged that for decades, over the course of many presidential elections, the debate moderators have always given the breaks wherever they can to the people organizing for the Democratic candidate. And I got to tell you, Newt Gingrich was the only one who stood up to the media and certain questions. Some might thought he came off arrogant, but those people weren't going to vote for him anyway. And I think what they have to start doing is saying, Republicans, hey, you want to have a debate? I'm not going with that moderator. We're not going to have a Candy moderate again, or Jim Lehrer, or a woman in the case of 2008 from PBS who had a book pending on Obama. If he won, her book would be published. I mean, why don't they stand up there?
Again, to talk about why this is a winning issue for Republicans, if they know what they're doing, if they make an issue of it. What happened when Newt Gingrich stood up to the press in the South Carolina debate? He went skyrocketing to first place in the Republican Party sweepstakes.
Yep.
He went into the lead the moment he did that. The conservative base, the Republican base, is fed up with the press, and he took them on squarely. Secondly, when the Republicans complain, as they do every 4 years, about the moderator, after a certain point, you just take your head and you bash it against the nearest wall, because for the millionth time, you have to explain to the Republican Party, you chose the moderator.
Right.
You agreed to the moderator.
Right.
The Democratic Party refused to do a debate with Fox moderating it. Well, fine. If you're going to do that, then Republicans should say, we're not going to do a debate unless Fox moderates it. We want a Fox. Where was the Fox moderator in this debate? They've got to stand their ground on these things. Now, here's something very interesting, Steve, that we didn't see coming. In the debates last year, the first debate moderator was Jim Lehrer. The third one was Bob Schieffer. The middle one was Candy Crowley. Now, any conservative would have put money on the fact that Jim Lehrer and Bob Schieffer were going to do a bad job, especially Bob Schieffer, who's got a record a mile long of animosity towards Republicans and conservatives. Well, guess what? Jim Lehrer and Bob Schieffer stunned conservatives when they did a good job. They weren't pro-conservative. They weren't pro-Republican. They were completely or just about completely fair across the board. So kudos to them for having done it right. In the middle was Candy Crowley, the one I would have said would have done the fair job in this. And she, in fact, did the most abysmal job of them all by jumping into the fray and snatching victory for Barack Obama by taking the moment where Mitt Romney looked at the president as if to say, my goodness, you may have just given me the presidency by making the erroneous and dishonest claim that you called it terrorism. You denounced Benghazi as terrorism the night of Benghazi. And she jumped in to correct Mitt Romney and to say that the president was correct on this, and jumped in such a loud way that the president turned to her, remember, and asked her to repeat it.
Could you repeat it? Yep.
And now, if this is not collusion, tell me what collusion is.
Here's the deal, Brent. You and I will have to take leave of our jobs, and whoever the next candidate is, we're going to have to be the media advisors. And I believe between you and I, we could get it done.
Well, I think that if we were media advisors, that would be 2 more media advisors than the Republicans have used in the last 30 years.
That's right. Hey, great luck with the great book, Collusion, How the Media Stole the 2012 Election and How to Stop Them from Doing It in 2016. I know folks can get it at all your websites and Amazon and everything, Media Research, Newsbusters, all over?
It's all over the place.